Hey, what's going on, everybody? Sega Man back here with another quick video. Just wanted to show you a little bit of my Sega Saturn collection and what I have in here. Variety of games that I have from my collection that I've had for a very long time. And if you look here, I have Street Fighter Alpha 2. That was a great fighting game for the Sega Saturn. You know, the Sega Saturn was really known for its 2D fighting games. It had, in my opinion, the best 2D fighting games to ever come out on a platform. And another game I have there, if you see it, is its Street Fighter Warrior's Dream. That also was a good one. And we got Rampage right here. This was a well, that's Children of the Atom, but there's also Panzer's Dragoon. As you know, the Dragoon Orta came out back for Xbox, which is great. I'm loving that game. And we also have Rampage. You know, the movie came out and it's coming out, and that was a really good game for the Sega Saturn. It also came out on other consoles too, but that's a great game on the Sega Saturn. If you want to get into, you know, some Rampage here, you know, it had pretty decent graphics, you know, for at the time, you know what I mean, for and also gameplay was good in it, you know. And then we got Panzer's Dragon. This is part 2. That's another great one there. That's this is one of the best shoot 'em up kind of games that was out for that time, man. I mean, I don't have the RPG one. Has ridiculous prices on that right now, but that's a good one. This is another great game. This is X-Men Children of the Atom. I think this is actually a direct port from the arcade, because I remember playing it on my Sega Saturn and then going to an arcade in a mall I went to one time, and it was the same exact thing, I swear. And you know, and it looked very good, just like like it says, the arcade smash hit, you know. And if you look down at the bottom down here, you know, see, I believe back then this is when I used to give perfect scores for games. You know what I mean? If you look there, they gave Children of the Game here. They gave it a perfect score from Game Pro. If you see it there, from the Game Pro magazine. Graphics of 5, sound, control, fun factor of 5. And it is true that this game has all of that. There is no wishy-washy, you know, in them giving these scores for this game for the Sega Saturn. Perfect 5s all the way around, which was a great game at the time, which is really good. And I believe Doom right here was also a direct port from the PC version. And the sound is really great in this Doom game right here. It's pretty good. And this one here, let's see, this is called Dark Legend. It's by Data East. This actually is a pretty unusual fighting game. I don't think it got really noticed, you know, back in the days, because I guess Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter were like, you know, everybody was on that. But this was a pretty decent game by Data East, and it was a pretty, you know, at that time there was all kind of different fighting games coming out, and this is one of the ones I think people looked over, but it's a great game. And then we also have, you know, I have the Mortal Kombats on here, you know what I mean. I have Mortal Kombat 3 right there. And then I have Mortal Kombat, this one here, a lot of people were looking for this. It's a Mortal Kombat trilogy, actually, for the Sega Saturn. It's very expensive, I think, in price now. But it was a great game that actually came out for the Sega Saturn. Then you got MK2, which was a great game. That's Hang On GP. This game is pretty different. A little kind of weird, you know. But it's Johnny, what was it? Bazooka Stone, I think. But it had some really cool, like, weird, like, jazz beats in it, you know, to the game. But the art form was pretty good, and it's a pretty decent game. It was made by US Gold. Then we have, you know, Gex here. This is kind of like a puzzle game. You know what I mean? Baku, I think. But it's pretty fun. It's actually a fun game, you know, for the Sega Saturn. Fun puzzle game. You know what I mean? And you know, oh, let's go back. This one here. This is also a great game. Fighters Mega Mix for the Sega Saturn, when you could play a variety of all different kinds of characters, from Fighting Vipers and Virtual Fighter, and you can even play as a piece of meat, and even play as the car on the Daytona, USA. You know, it was pretty weird, you know, but it was unique in what they did with this game. Another great game here is Battle Arena UAR Toshinden. This was a great game also for the Sega Saturn back in the day, and I picked these games up fairly cheap back then. Some of these were $10, but some of these today are even more than that. But it was a pretty decent game, and everybody knows this because it's back and pad on systems. The original Fighting Vipers here for the Sega Saturn, which was also a pretty cool game. I liked Fighting Vipers. And they also have some pinball games here, because I like pinball. And they had some decent pinball games on here for the Sega Saturn. Another one here, there goes the original. This is actual Virtual Fighter Kids. This is also a pretty decent game for the Sega Saturn. It's just a kid version of Virtual Fighter. It's cute, you know, but it's a little cute beat 'em up, you know, but it's a pretty decent game. Then we have here the original Virtual Fighter 2. People still today think this is one of the best games that ever came out for Sega Saturn was Virtual Fighter 2. This was a great game. Highly recommend it if you get a Sega Saturn. We have a cool shooter here called Galactic Attack. You know, I think I did a video on this one. I remember. Yeah, that's another great game for your Sega Saturn. Now this game here, I don't know, I think it's hard to come by. If not, it's expensive though. It is Contra for the Sega Saturn. It's a Contra Legacy of War. You can play it in with 3D glasses and play it regular, but this is a great game here to actually have, and that's the only Contra game I believe that ever came out on the Sega Saturn, if I'm correct. But that's another great game. I used to play this game for religiously forever. This is Night Warriors, Darkstalker's Revenge for the Sega Saturn. This also was a great game. Great graphically also back then. Good 2D fighting game for the Sega Saturn. Then we got here Die Hard Arcade. That was another great game for the Sega Saturn. It was a Sega Saturn exclusive back then, but it was pretty good. You know, a little blocky and all that, but for at the time, man, you know, it was a great game. Another good game here is Area 51. That was another great game for the Sega Saturn. It was a #1 arcade hit, and I liked it a lot. It was a great game. Another game you hardly would ever see on there is Resident Evil. Resident Evil was another pretty cool game that came out on the Sega Saturn. I don't think it got as much noticeable variety like the PlayStation did, but they did get a version of the Resident Evil. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Another one here is Darius Gaiden. It's another good shmup for your Sega Saturn. A lot of people used to talk about this Clockwork Knight for the Sega Saturn. This is a pretty unique, different type of game. Spent hours of time playing on this. They had a Clockwork Knight too, but this was a great game for the Sega Saturn. And another good game here was Last Bronx. Last Bronx was also a great fighting game for Sega Saturn. They had really good fighting games, man. You know what I mean? They just did. It was great, you know. But if you have a Sega Saturn, I recommend picking this up if you're into 2D fighting games. This was a great fighter for back in the day. Last Bronx, pretty good fighting game. Just wanted to show you a little bit of my collection, guys. I'm going to do these little bit of collection tours in my room. You know, I don't have I have a lot of games, but I'm going to do some of these and pick out some of the ones that I like. Tell me what you think about the Sega Saturn. Was it one of your favorite systems, or is it something you're going to go out and collect and play? It's a great system to collect for. Yes, it is old games, but a lot of people collect for old games and game systems because it's just nostalgia, and there's people that have never played these games before that would like to experience these games. You know what I mean? And what they have to offer in the gaming community and to you. So if you get a chance, pick up a Sega Saturn and see if you can get some games. Also, thank you for watching my videos. Thank you for subscribing, everybody. And this is Sega Man out. I hope you guys have a good weekend, and I'll be back with another video soon. Peace.